Okay, so let's kick off our first information session. If any of you have any questions during this 1 hour, please put it in the chat because we will have time at the end for some Q&A. And the Exponential Destiny team is here to answer your questions either on this conversation or we'll follow up afterwards with an email. So first of all, welcome to the community at large for the Metaverse for SDGs Global Prize and Virtual Reality Competition. This is the first all teams community call that we're having. We actually scheduled 2 of them, one that's happening right now that you're part of, but we also scheduled one for tomorrow to accommodate time zones for people in other parts of the world because we have quite a global group of individuals that are participating. But welcome. We are recording this and we'll be able to post this in case you want to re-listen to it or share it with others that couldn't make this conversation. I'm Marcus Shingles. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Exponential Destiny. I'm based in the United States. Just to give you a little idea of who has registered for this competition as of to date, since we opened up the registration several weeks ago in Kigali, Rwanda, we have 371 registrants and representing 52 different countries. You can see the countries that are represented here. The order of these is based on the number of individuals per country. So we're really pleased that we've got quite a large global community that's participating in this. And registration will stay open for months to come. This is a long runway for the competition. We did that by design so people could have plenty of time to learn, to get educated, and then to produce their environments, which we're going to talk about. And also we expect over the next 2 months, people will be finding team members and getting their teams registered as well. So again, thank you for attending. So for this session, being our first session, we thought it's important to provide you with a basic orientation and overview of the key objectives and mission of this initiative. Also, we'd like to take you through what your journey and roadmap will look like over the next 12 months during this fun competition. Introduce you to the broader team that's going to be supporting you along the way from Exponential Destiny, and then start to build our community of metaverse entrepreneurs who will develop the first SDG metaverse to bring awareness, education, and empathy for each of the 17 goals of the United Nations. And we're doing this with the support of the ITU, that's the specialized agency of the United Nations that's focused on telecommunications, equity and internet access, and digital technology. So the first objective that we have for this entire initiative is for you to learn and acquire a new skill set that makes you relevant. Relevant means you can get employed in the new job economy. Our goal here is to future-proof you, to give you some skills that are emerging in terms of the market demand for these skills, similar to the way that the demand started to increase when the original internet was developed and started to become more adopted more widely. We think that the metaverse as a next generation of the internet, this immersive and experiential view of digital information will be important. We think that every business, every brand, product, service, organization, celebrity, individual will have their own metaverse space, their own immersive and experiential version of their website, essentially. And all these websites will be connected just like the original internet, and that's what a metaverse is. In these environments, you'll see people walking around, and so it'll be much more social and interactive. And we think this will happen in the next several years. We already see the demand for this. And we think that as the headsets come down in cost, whether you use a desktop or use your smartphone, as more players like Apple and Google and others start to create their own hardware, the space is going to continue to explode, and we think there'll be a demand in the marketplace. And just like the original internet, version Web 1.0 and Web 2.0, someone is going to need to design and develop all these new experiences in this third generation of the internet. Why couldn't it be you? And rather than trying to train you on this fact or on this skill set 20 or 30 years after the internet's invented, we'd like to actually do it as it's starting to explode and the demand is going up. You heard me mention Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. We'll get more into this over time, but just at a high level, when we talk metaverse, it's really in this category within Web 3.0. That's the way we look at it. It's an environment that's an immersive, experiential, but you access it using an augmented reality or virtual reality eyewear. We're going to be focused on virtual reality, which is fully immersive. But it's this notion of information and getting access to information is going to be experience-based. And to have an extraordinary experience, you want to have an immersive, lifelike experience. And that's what the metaverse will contain. We are not advocates and proponents of the metaverse. We think there's positive things that will come with the metaverse, and we think there's negative things that will come with the metaverse, just like there were positive and negative things that came with the internet originally. And some of the current versions of the internet that is more into social media, of course, there's positive and negative things. We really focus on the ability to upskill people into this as a profession. And then specifically as a nonprofit, we work with schools to help them look at transforming education. And we think that's a great application. We'll get more into that. So over the next several weeks and months, the team's going to help you understand what is the metaverse? What is virtual reality? How do you get into the metaverse? What's the hardware you use? What type of content can you create? How do you tell stories in these environments? What software and platforms do we suggest you use? How do NFTs, blockchain, LiDAR, 3D modeling, and other capabilities fit into this creative process? So this is going to become very clear to you. Our expectation is that you have zero experience in this field. Some of you do, and some of you don't. We know from our surveys that the majority of you don't. And that's our goal, is to take any individual, regardless of their background or skill level, and get them exposed to this and get them to a point of self-sufficiency. The nice thing about this is if you're not technical or you don't feel like you're going to progress learning a programming code, learning a computer language, you don't have to learn a coding language in order to design in the metaverse. There are coding languages you can learn and you can be very effective building out virtual reality spaces, but it's not a necessity. Most of the work that we do leverages our artistic and creative skills and our communication skills. That's the premium asset in this environment, in our opinion, which means everyone can have a role in this. And that's what we're excited about. It's a digital new economy field, a job, and we feel like can be built and designed without having a deep technical understanding or experience. And we'll explain why. So that's the first objective, is to upskill you. We as a nonprofit particularly work with low-income communities, people that are in economically stressed situations, to try to help them find new skills that make them relevant to the new job economy. So that's the objective that we're applying here. The second objective is that you're going to apply these new skills as we teach you how to create these environments and tell stories and build these magical spaces. You're going to use this environment and test these skills by actually building out spaces in virtual reality around a sustainable development goal, one of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. That's where you're going to apply what you learned over the year of this competition. There are two age groups for the competition. If you're between the ages of 14 and 18, you're going to be in that particular age group competing against other 14 to 18-year-olds. Same thing for 19-year-olds and above. So there are two different age groups. Each team, you have to have a team to compete. Your team has to at least have 2 people, and it can have a maximum of 6 people. And these people can be anywhere in the world. They don't have to be someone in your local community, because you're using virtual reality. So you can collaborate with others if you want to use this as an opportunity to meet other people. Diversity on the team is highly encouraged, and it will influence final judging. So when we come down to these experiences and we look at the experience, if one team is more diverse than another team, it will tip the scale in an area where we feel like both experiences are at a level that's somewhat equal. So when we say diversity, that means identifying a good male to female ratio on your team, fairly represented, as well as even looking at diversity in terms of different economics of people that are on your team. You know, if you're a team that's got access to resources, we encourage you to go reach out to a team that doesn't have access to resources, maybe in your broader community, and pull them onto your team, pull those individuals onto your team. We'll talk more about that later as well. As far as the timeline goes, well, we announced this in February in Geneva, Switzerland. The whole Exponential Destiny team, you can see here, was we delivered the opening keynote at this digital transformation summit that the ITU had at the UN summit here. And we made the announcement. Many of you have watched that keynote video. That's on our website. It's the first thing you should really watch to get an appreciation for what we're doing. www.sdgmetaverseprize.org. That's the opening keynote. We announced it there. Then we just got back a few weeks ago from Kigali, Rwanda, where we met with, there were 1,000 people there in person, youth leaders, and there were 5,000 youth leaders attending virtually. And it was really amazing summit. And we were there giving demonstrations of virtual reality, speaking about the topic. And Marco and the team just really encouraged and helped other people really understand what this was. And we did a lot of team registration. So we are now open for business. The registration's open, teams can register. And like I said, this is our first information session. Now we're going to move from June to August. We're going to start the training. We're going to start to upskill you. We'll talk more about that. And then from August to February, essentially, is when we expect most teams will be in full swing and they'll start competing, meaning you'll start building, you're supposed to start creating in these environments around your SDG. March of next year is when we're going to start the judging and evaluation. So that's when people will stop building their environments, because we're now going to go through an evaluation process to see what people have designed and built. And then in June of next year is the date that tentatively we have planned for holding a summit, ideally with the ITU leadership team around the Generations Connect Global Youth Summit. So we would have a reprise of the summit we just had in Rwanda, where we work with the ITU to have a large summit. That's what we're discussing right now around the metaverse. And we'll have all in virtual reality, desktops, headsets, et cetera, and one physical location, because that's where we'll have the final award ceremony. So let me switch gears, because you're probably wondering, when I'm talking about building out an experience for an SDG, what exactly does that mean? And how difficult is it? We said you don't have to actually do technical coding, but what are we talking about? And for that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Juan. Juan, I'll stop sharing my screen and you can pick it up from here.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus, for the introduction. So I want to show you guys a video that I created of me designing inside the metaverse. So I hope you guys are ready. Give me 1 second to start sharing my screen, and I'll go ahead and start playing the video.
Optimize for sound when you share your screen.
Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the metaverse. It's Juan Felix, and today I will be guiding you guys on how to build inside the metaverse. So some questions you guys may be asking yourselves are, what are you using right now? So I am using an Oculus Quest 2 headset, but you guys are able to access the metaverse using any device. For example, a HTC Vive, which is another VR headset, or your desktop or laptop, and even your phone. What's incredible about these headsets is that you're able to go into a mobile app store where you're able to see the different platforms and softwares that are available to you to download, some out of price and some free. But for our use case today, we'll be using the software called Engage to build inside the metaverse. Now that I have explained how I'm accessing the metaverse and what softwares I am using, I want to highlight some of the objectives for this competition. You're going to select an SDG, and then you and your team are going to have to go into the metaverse and build something that teaches empathy, awareness, and education for your sustainable development goal. I will walk you through how, in minutes, you and your team are able to create experiences. Keep in mind that I am only taking a few minutes to create, but you guys will have over 10 months to be able to complete your experience. For our purposes, we're going to be using this water ocean type environment to be able to raise awareness and empathy around SDG number 14, life below water. As you guys can see, we made it into an environment where there is some sort of foresty back part, but there's also an entire ocean front view. Let's go inside the water and see what we find. Now that we've made it inside the ocean, you guys can start to tell how realistic and how much of a real feel that this environment gives. But not only that, let's start to bring in objects and start to populate this area. With the help of the Exponential Destiny team, I'm going to transform this area in the matter of minutes. As you can start to see, we've taken objects like plastic bottles, trash, and even a shipwreck to start creating the narrative that our oceans and sea animals are suffering because of the pollution. This is how we want to start to raise awareness. If you notice, we also incorporated some statistics that will educate individuals that come through our experience. And ultimately, as you can see, we're starting to create a story and a narrative. And we can actually swim through the entire ocean and show these issues and opportunities with this sustainable development goal. This is barely the beginning of this journey of you bringing to life the sustainable development goals with us. For many of you guys, you have never been in virtual reality, but the purpose of this demonstration was to show you how in a matter of minutes, I was able to create an experience without any technical coding. I took the environment and created a story using different objects in virtual reality. Remember, I've done this in a matter of minutes. But
We can, Juan, you can pause there. I think that was great, Juan. Thank you very much. You know, that what Juan showed you right there was, let me put my camera on. What Juan was showing you right there was how he can get into that software. He recorded that an hour ago, and he went into the software, and there's different software. We're going to tell you different software. There's pros and cons. We're going to share with you what we think are the pros and cons. But that particular software package, he went in, and the software package itself had all these environments you could choose from, very similar to when you open up a PowerPoint presentation and it's blank white when you open up PowerPoint, but then you have templates you can pull in, fancy templates that PowerPoint lets you pull in. Same idea. You get in there and you can pull in a whole ocean. So if you're focused on SDG 14, life below water, and you want to go start creating an environment, you can literally pull in a whole ocean and then start telling a story in that ocean. What Juan was doing is he started to pollute the ocean, taking in other objects that the software provided him. Plastic bottles, trash cans. I saw a car down there, you know, so you see what he can do so quickly in a matter of minutes. Now you have 10 months to take that whole ocean and build a whole narrative. You can have fish flying around, swimming around. You can have dolphins playing. You can have statistics and charts. You can show videos, but in a 3-dimensional immersive environment, which is how most people will experience this environment, you can just do some fantastic education and learning. So thank you for that, Juan. That was really effective. We'll talk and give some demos in a little bit. But the other thing that we wanted to talk about in terms of an objective number 3, is that you become part of a like-minded community. And collectively as a group, we all have this fun competition in order to create this SDG metaverse. Now, the good news is that we've actually raised sponsor funding. So these are our sponsors you see on the left-hand side. We're also teamed up with the Virtual World Society, where I'm actually a board member. And this is a nonprofit that focuses on metaverse for good. And they're helping us with team recruitment and some of their expertise. So we've really got an A team that's helping us with this. But what some of the sponsors have done is they've given us funds to incentivize people to compete. And we've raised, as of to date, over $200,000 we've raised. And the way we're going to use this money is we're going to put money on every single sustainable development goal. So every top performing team for that SDG will win a prize purse. And then we're going to have a bigger prize purse for the overall best of show. And I tell you what the numbers are right now, but quite frankly, we expect to raise significant amount of money, even over the next 8 to 9 months as we continue to add sponsors. But even before getting started, we raised over $200,000 that we're going to put towards prize money. Very specifically, we're going to continue to raise money. If people are interested in sponsoring, they can contact us and they can be a sponsor. Sponsors funds, the way we're going to use this money as a nonprofit is we're awarding a cash prize to each of the 17 finalists for each age group. So there'll actually be 34 winners, because there's 17 SDGs and we got a 14 to 18-year-old age group and a 19-year-old and above. So there'll be 34 prize finalists. We're also going to award top of show, best experience of the metaverse across all 17 in each age group. So that's another 2 overall top performing teams that will win. We expect tens of thousands of dollars for those top performing teams at a minimum right now. I mean, we've already raised 200,000, so that's how we're going to start to allocate. We're also going to use this funding to support the travel to take some of the finalist teams for the award ceremony in 2023. Depending on where we have that award ceremony and depending on how much is virtual versus in person, we are going to reserve a budget to help those finalist teams travel to wherever we are, whether it's back to Kigali, Rwanda, or whether it's the UN in New York City. We'll make that determination, but we're using some budget to bring those teams so they can demonstrate to all the attendees as they go to the award ceremony. They can share their experiences. And then we have a limited amount of funds that are going to support teams that have a really extreme economic need. And your barrier to entry, your barrier to participate with us in this competition is that you cannot afford the $350 Oculus Quest headset. If you're having economic stress to be able to afford that headset, we do have limited funds that we're going to help some teams get headsets. And we have a limited number of funds, so we have to be selective, but we're going to do the best we can to make sure that everyone that wants to participate in this competition can, and they're not out of it just because they couldn't afford a headset. And we'll talk more about how you can apply for that in a little bit. A very small portion, 10 to 15%, will be used for prize operations and administration. The Exponential Destiny team, the group of young people that you're going to hear from, Marco and Samantha and the team, they've been upskilled like you're about to get upskilled over the last year and a half. They get compensated for the work that they're going to do. I personally am not going to take any compensation. I'm doing this pro bono, but it's just good to be transparent on how the funds are being used, especially if you're considering sponsoring. So the fourth objective here is that in the end, June of next year, ideally, we have crowdsourced the world, all of you, to collectively produce some amazing experiences around the SDG that provide education, awareness, and empathy. That's what you're going to be judged on, is how well does the environment you created teach people about the issues and opportunities of the Sustainable Development Goal and the importance of it and what the UN is doing as far as their plan for that SDG. Current statistics, the issues, the opportunities, and then most importantly, how do you build empathy? A good way to build empathy around life underwater, SDG number 14, is you take people into a simulated ocean experience and you show them examples of really what it's like to be in a polluted ocean that's realistic to the way the oceans are existing and evolving today. That's a good way to build empathy. That's been proven when you use virtual reality. That's why we think this is a powerful medium. Important note, this is not a competition to solve the Sustainable Development Goals. You don't have to rack your brain thinking about what's the solution. How do we solve the SDG? That's a whole nother competition. That's a big competition. That would take years to run that competition. So we're really just asking, go do your research and bring this to life. Bring the issues to life, the opportunities to life, bring it to education. You don't have to try to solve it though. You're just making people aware of it. The reason we're excited about Web 3.0 and more specifically virtual reality in the metaverse is we see it checking a lot of boxes when it comes to the Sustainable Development Goals. If you listen to the keynote we did at the Geneva UN ITU Summit, you'll hear us talk about these more extensively, so I won't go into detail, with the exception of one. At a high level, though, we think this is going to reduce inequalities. For example, a low-income community that had a public school system that didn't prepare people for the job market, we see this as an opportunity for schools to leapfrog and quickly get students into a situation where they can develop these skill sets and become self-sufficient and make income. We think there's a realistic opportunity for that. Part of this team are testaments to that fact. The one item we do want to share with you, because it's so powerful, is these statistics done by PricewaterhouseCoopers, a consulting firm, that did an analysis, and they compared virtual reality learners to a classroom cohort of learners and a cohort of digital online learners. So they took those three groups, they had the same training, they had the same subject matter, but they trained them using three different technologies or three different methods: classroom, digital learning, and VR. The results were that virtual reality learners were 4 times faster to train than a classroom learner. The students the people that were trained in virtual reality said that they had a 275% improved level of confidence to be able to act on issues more confidently after their training. That's a very big statistic. 3.75 times more emotionally connected to the content than what they felt versus their classroom learners. And lastly, 4 times more focused than their e-learning peers. And we know education right now, with all kind of the instant gratification that goes on with social media, it's hard for young people or any student, quite frankly, to keep focused, right? There's a lot of distractions. And so this is a big statistic. Now, the thing that's interesting about this PricewaterhouseCoopers study is this is from 2020. That's 2 years ago this study was done. That's a long time when it comes to virtual reality and metaverse. This industry is advancing so quickly that I would argue in the last 2 years, you've seen what had typically happened in 10 or 20 years in this particular field. So if these statistics are accurate, and we think they are, the 2022 version of this study will show numbers that are dramatically even more superior than this. So bottom line is, this is a very, very effective way to teach it, to do teaching and education and training. And we've learned that ourselves working with schools in low-income communities. So of course, if that's the statistic, let's marry that level of learning and empathy building and speed of training. Let's marry that to something that's important to us and humanity, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. And that's what we're doing here, essentially, right? And you're all part of it. Again, empathy, awareness, and education of the UN goals. So what we will produce by June of next year is we will have this web, like a World Wide Web, but it'll be a virtual reality web of all these different spaces, environments that all of you created, where we identify the top performing teams. And this will be an environment that will be open to the public, so the public can come in and learn about the Sustainable Development Goals and the work that you guys did. You'll keep your own intellectual property. This is a nonprofit venture. But the goal is to then share what you guys produced with others. So that way, whether people come in with headsets, with phones, with desktop computers, people will be able to just enter this almost like entering a museum, an education museum around the Sustainable Development Goals, where they get to go into these different worlds. They get to see each other as avatars and talk to one another, and ultimately experience the creations that you all have come up with. And that's the end goal. The other thing that will happen through this process, which is part of our mission, is for each of these 17 SDGs, with all of you working as teams, we anticipate that each SDG, we're going to identify a handful of teams that rise to the top of the class. You will demonstrate real skills that you've developed. And we're going to be able to see this because this is a competition. So we'll see who's performing well. Our objective is, through this process, we will not have only upskilled and reskilled some of you into this as a career path, but also the competition alone will just give us access to anyone who has good skills in this space. You might have picked up the skills from your university or from places other than us, which is great. End of the day, though, come June of next year, we will see who some strong performers are. And what we'd like to do is, for our mission, is we want to find professional career development opportunities for you and put you into jobs, put you into professional jobs in this field. We are currently working with schools in low-income communities to help them transform education and learning by using virtual reality. We've worked with a school in Florida, the 6th largest school district in the United States, Chicago, and Los Angeles, all low-income, under-resourced schools that don't have big budgets. But because the cost of the technology has come down so significantly, we've built a whole educational pedagogy around how to use virtual reality to teach in this environment. And the teachers and the students and the principals and the administrators love it. It really is the future of learning. So we want to find you through this process, and then we want to employ you if you'd like a job at the best that we can, and put you on these projects in your local communities so you can start using your skill sets to help schools in your local community. That's our broader mission here, and that's going to help us with this competition. And it's a win-win. The schools win, the local community wins, you guys find career opportunities, and Exponential Destiny as a nonprofit fulfills our mission. So that's bullet point number 1 here, provide you with a basic orientation of why we're doing this and what the initiative is. Okay, so we're going to switch gears now and jump into the second point here, which is make sure that you understand really what your journey is going to look like over the next 12 months, step by step. So there's no confusion and you're ready to tackle this. We like to use the phrase in it to win it. You know, if you're going to do this, you might as well do it right. And we hope you're all in it to win it. As a matter of fact, if you're not real motivated and not excited about what we're talking about, we suggest you just come to the finals and watch the final award ceremony and don't bother participating, because we're really looking for people that are serious, that want to learn a new skill and are passionate about this. And that's who we want to focus on right now and support. So this is the path forward. This is your roadmap for this journey. We are here, step one, in June of 2022, and we're moving to June of 2023. So we've got basically a year in front of us. The first step, which is something that you need to start thinking about doing immediately, is you have to start thinking about registering, selecting a sustainable development goal, finding some team members, and registering yourself as a team. As of today, if you're on this call, it's because you registered as an individual. We're not asking you to register as a team yet, because some of you haven't even found out your team members. You're not sure who you're going to work with on this. We think that over the next couple months, you'll find your team members and register as a team. Some of you maybe have already figured out your team members, the 2 to, remember 2 people to 6 people per team. But a lot of you, we expect, will be part of this community, network with others, talk to your classmates, talk to your friends, your families, members, decide who you're going to do this with. The good news here is you can team up with someone across the world if you wanted to. And we're going to try to help facilitate that. So this is the first step about registering yourself, but then registering your team and selecting an SDG. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-founder, Marco Vargas, who is going to take you through some of the assets that we're building to help you register your team that we've just recently put out live. Marco, over to you.
Thank you so much, Marcus. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Can everyone see it?
See, yep.
Awesome. So my name is Marco Vargas, co-founder of Exponential Destiny, and also the project manager for the Metaverse for SDGs Global Prize in VR competition. It's such a pleasure to meet you all. And what I want to go ahead and do is just inform you about some additional resources that we've produced on our end. To start off, to support you, my team and I at Exponential Destiny are going to continue to create assets. For example, the official website is where you can find the latest information about the global prize information. As you can see, I will be navigating to the website here. You can see that there's a lot of information, and so we ask everyone to please be resourceful and make sure that you read the entire website, because there's a lot of interesting resources and fun information that can help you leapfrog into this competition. For example, there's I'm interested, right, which I think many of you have already visited. I want to participate, followed by register to compete. This is going to be a very interesting resource, the FAQ questions and contact page. Yeah, as you can see, you can click down and there's a lot of awesome information here. And we try to anticipate the questions that we even get via email, and as well as questions that are common, like I'm interested in potentially participating. What is the cash prize award? The competition is about bringing to life an SDG. Can you explain what you mean? And so we go ahead and do that and publish it on the website. But we understand that to a certain extent, we also need to provide the ability for you all to communicate with each other as participants of this global community. And so as a result, I'm happy to announce that today we are announcing the Metaverse for SDGs Facebook group. This Facebook group will function as a global community forum, as you can see right in front of me. This isn't a private group, and it's invite only. I will go ahead and share this on Friday for all to go ahead and click on a link and accept an invitation to a Facebook group. This Facebook page will evolve over time. And for now, you can ask participants in the topic section of this Facebook group to team up with you on a specific SDG. For example, I'm very passionate about SDG number 13. So I'm going to go to the topic section of the Facebook page. Let's see, SDG number 13, climate action. And while I'm in this page, there you go. I see the tab. I'm going to go ahead and comment a brief message, inviting and letting everyone know part of the competition that I'm looking for a team. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And, you know, as a general rule, I would recommend for everyone a part of the competition to introduce themselves. And if you need help finding a team, this is the place to do that. I briefly introduce myself. I share where I'm from, what is SDG I'm interested in, and I'll also share a little bit about my virtual reality experience. And as you can see, after I posted the tag, my colleague Samantha, who's also based in Los Angeles, just responded to my message, and she said, "Hi, my name is Samantha. I'm 21 years old and from Los Angeles, California too. I have 2 team members who are also interested in working on SDG number 13 climate action. I'll connect us in a private message so we can set up a Zoom call meeting all together. I look forward to meeting you." And so like as easy as that, you can actually meet people who are from your local community, from your country, or at a minimum from the global community to team up with you. And I'll go ahead and pause right there and send it back to Marcus. Again, look out for the Facebook page invitation going out on Friday.
That was awesome, Marco. That's great. So that's a resource that we're putting out there. And we're going to try to think of resources that we can create for you as a community to collaborate. Some of you have team members that you've already identified. Some of you don't have any team members. So we want to create a community where you can find team members. We'll also evolve that Facebook page so you can go into that SDG and maybe you start sharing links to information about that sustainable development goal. What are the issues? What are the opportunities? Maybe one of you found a good video where an expert talks about it and you post that for the rest of the community. So really it's a resource that we expect everyone to use. And Marco, thanks for you and the team for creating that. The next thing we want to talk about is how you actually register as a team. And for that, Marco will take you through the team registration, which is a new registration. Remember, many of you, actually all of you, if you're on this call, it's because you went to the website and you registered as an individual. Once you are able to find your two team members up to 6 team members, up to 6, you as a group need to go on and officially register your team. Marco, why don't you share with the group how that's going to be done?
Of course, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. As you can see, I'm back on the official prize website. It's sdgmetaverseprize.org. I'm in the register section, and you'll notice that a new hyperlink has been added. It says, once you identify your team members, you and each team member will need to officially register as a team using the team registration form using this link. I'm going to go ahead and click on this link, and it's going to take me to a Google form. This is a short Google form that takes anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes for a team to complete. I'm actually going to go ahead and complete it live. Following up to the conversation that just took place on the Facebook group, Samantha has reached out to me. We're both interested in SDG number 13. We're both very committed to this competition. And so right in front of me, I've gone ahead and pre-filled this form to speed up the demo. But you can see there's a lot of information here, and this form is designed to really officially register your team. I go ahead and put my the team email here. This is a very important email. This will be the primary contact email. So be sure to be mindful of what email you do list, as we'll be reaching out to this primary email a lot. I would go ahead and write the team email, official team selection, and you can have a lot of fun with what the name of your team is.
Marco, maybe zoom in a little bit on the screen.
Yeah,
thank you. Thanks. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, great.
Yeah, this is step number 1, official team name selection. I'm gonna go ahead and do something simple, Exponential Los Angeles, but you could do something fun like the Rwanda avatars, Metaverse masters, and I'm gonna love seeing the many different names that you all create. Followed by that, I go to step number 2. As I've mentioned, Samantha and I just connected on the Facebook page, and we're both interested in SDG number 13. We've already connected privately via Zoom or in a Facebook group, and now we're going to move forward and formalize it and let the conference organizers, which that being us, Exponential Destiny. Step number 3, select your team age category. Samantha is 21, I'm 22 years old. I'm going to go and select that age category. I've already pre-filled this information as well with team contact information. Very important. Note the first person you list will be considered a team leader. The team leader will receive additional information that will help us support and guide you throughout the competition. So I went ahead and pre-filled that information. Something to flag is just to make sure that you include your area code for your country, since this is a global prize competition. Please don't abbreviate the city, your state, or your country, as we use this data, and it's very important that it's not abbreviated. I listed my experience, my age. I listed how I found out about the competition. I met with an in-person representative. Let's say it's Marcus Shingles in this scenario. I listed my second team member, Samantha Aguilar. her contact information, and this is demo information. Followed by that, you can see, you can add team number 3, team number 4, and you may be in a position where like you don't have every team member who will be a part of your group in the moment. But what's awesome about this form is that you will have the opportunity after you fill it out to actually return to the form and add additional information. And so don't worry about having all your team members as of today, or even when you complete the form originally. You'll have some time to update your information. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed to the next step after I've added all my team members' contact information. This is the final question: economic need for purchasing virtual reality headset. As Marcus mentioned, there is a fixed and limited amount of sponsored funding that is being reserved for teams that qualify and demonstrate an extreme economic need. And so please keep that in mind, that this is the section where you can indicate to us, and we will follow up with an additional form to help us understand what is the economic need and how we can potentially support you. So that's as simple as it is to register. Oh, I just got a quick little CAPTCHA. Chimneys. Let's see. Chimneys.
We can move on to Marco. I think that's basically the end of that. But that's how you. Thanks, Marco, for that. That was great. And good job putting that whole thing together. That's the way you register for a team. So it's not too complicated. Pretty basic, and you can do that as you form your team. And as Marco was saying, you can add team members later if you want to broaden your team. Again, you can do up to 2 to 6 people. So let's moving on with the discussion. Step 2 is, so that's registering your team, and individual registration is something, selecting your SDG. That's something you got to start thinking about now. The second step, which really has to take place really in the next couple months, is you getting software training and hardware training and procuring software and hardware. That means actually getting your headsets. You can do this on a desktop and on a phone, but the real experience is with a headset. So at least one person on your team should have a headset, as we described. So headsets that we're recommending is the Oculus Quest 2, the Meta Quest 2. It's a retail of $300 US with tax and shipping in other countries. It could be a little bit more than that, but it is probably the most affordable headset on the market, and it's extremely good headset. We're not pro Facebook. We're not pro Meta. We don't invest in them. We're just recommending it because it's what we use, because it's the lowest cost headset at the highest quality that we can find. There'll be other headsets that come out in the coming 5 or 6 months. Apple's supposed to come out with some headsets, Google, etc. So this landscape will change, but this is what we're recommending right now. In terms of software, now this is the important one. How do you access the metaverse? There are a lot of platforms out there that let you get into virtual reality environments. That's nothing new, okay? In the last 2 years, there's been dozens of platforms. So there's 3 of them in particular that we're recommending that you work with, just from our experience, okay? You don't have to use these, and you can use other ones, but we think as a collective community right now at this point in time, these are the ones that we should be using because we've already done our due diligence. So we're sharing that knowledge with you. One is Engage, which is, you see the website up there. I mean, you can actually start going and downloading these apps and this software today to start to get used to it. They have their own tutorials. There are specific pros and cons with the software. We've listed some of them here. We won't go into a lot of depth on this call, but we will explain to you the pros and cons. One thing that we really like about Engage is that you can record things and play those recordings back when you're in virtual reality, which means you can create theater, you can create stage production, you can have actors, a dolphin that's swimming, a person that's running, rain that's falling, smog, cloud, wind. You can do those things in virtual reality and record them to make entire scenes, like making a movie, and then they can be played back, which gets to be very powerful if you think about it. So that's one reason we like Engage. Another platform is called Spatial. Spatial has very high quality, realistic avatars. So when you're in Spatial, it really does look like the person that, if you know that person in real life, you'll be surprised how realistic they look in Spatial. One of the downsides of that is once you get to 30 or 40 avatars, it starts to crash because the quality of the avatars uses a lot of the memory. By the way, these are all short-term issues because as the memory goes up in the headsets, as Spatial works on their software, over time, these issues will be ameliorated to where they're not an issue anymore. But spatial is another one we recommend. And the third one we recommend as a creation environment is Oculus, is Facebook Meta's product called Horizon Worlds. And I'm going to show you a little demo here of using this link. What you're seeing here is in very fast motion, they're showing avatars that people are actually with headsets or on their desktop. They're in there and they're building an environment. You can see them literally creating this environment without any technical coding, kind of like Juan was showing you earlier. So it's really a magical space where you get in there and you can create these environments around the sustainable development goal, and then you can gamify it. You can add things to make it into a game, which really increases the ability to educate and learn. So we just wanted to share that with you. Again, this is Facebook's product. Now, one of the downsides of that product is, as you can see, everyone looks like a cartoon, versus a realistic avatar, which, today a lot of younger age groups use that particular platform, but it's up for you to decide. Maybe an SDG metaverse educational virtual reality space is better to do with cartoon-like avatars because you are going to be appealing to young people. There's a couple other platforms that deserve honorable mention because we like to use them. We feel they're exceptional right now for very large conferences, large summits, and events. Those other platforms I showed you, you can't have too many people in those environments. The memory gets pretty intense. Vatum and gatherings are two environments that are actually built where you can have thousands of people in these environments. And we think that we'll start hosting a lot of these information sessions, as well as potentially our summit we have next year within gatherings and or Vatum. So those are worth checking out as well. So we're back to the roadmap, and let's talk about step 3, 4, and 5. These are the steps that we expect to take place between June and September, where you basically you're going to get basic training, intermediate training, and you'll get advanced training over the course of the next few months. Now, we're going to do our best to try to give you some of that training, but we're going to give you like 20% of the training that you're going to need. The rest of the training you're going to get by just getting in the headsets, getting on the desktop, and just going into it and learning it. There's a lot of YouTube videos that teach this stuff. You're going to learn the same way that we learned it the first time, because there's plenty of resources out there online that teach how to build in these environments. Some of them get very advanced where you do get very technical if you want to. So that's what you should expect. Your journey is going to look like that. June to September is when you're going to start to really get, if you have no training so far, that's when you're going to start to get educated and upskilled into this space. And we're going to help support that. Then we get to step 6, which is February and March of next year. And that's where we're going to ask you to stop producing your environment. This will be around the end of February, I believe. You're finished. All teams stop producing environment. Make a video that's 5 minutes of your experience, because the judges are going to actually watch these videos, because we can't walk into 500 or 600 virtual reality experiences. We don't have the bandwidth to do that. So we're going to watch videos where you showcase what your experience is as a preliminary step. So that way we can identify from those videos what are the top 2 within each sustainable development goal that we want to bring in per age group. So if you think about the math here, that means that starting, February to March, the judges are going to go into, we're going to watch the videos, hundreds and hundreds of videos probably of spaces that were created, 5-minute videos. We're going to identify from there, what are, for age group 14 to 18-year-olds, what's the top 17 first and second place? That means there's 34 that we'll select. And then for 19-year-olds and above, who's the top first and second? For that, based on the videos, for that 17 SDGs for that age group, that means we will the judges are going to actually walk into no less than 68 immersive environments. It'll probably take us a month to do that, where that team will take us through a fully immersive virtual reality environment of the Sustainable Development Goal metaverse space they created. We'll do that, basically from March to April. And through that process, we will identify for the 2 age groups, the top performing team across each, for each 17 SDGs. That means we'll have 17 from the 14 to 18-year-old group, and 17 top finalists from the 19-year-olds above, we have our winners. Those are the winners. Those are the ones that are going to be awarded prize money and will be asked to attend virtually or in person the final summit that we have. And then at that summit, we will announce the best experience of overall for each age group. So basically the top one for 14, 18-year-olds and the top performing team for 19-year-olds and above across all the sustainable development goals. And that will conclude the competition. And that's when we'll have the final awards ceremony and we'll give top honors, etc. So with that said, with the minutes that remain, I would just like to mention and highlight the team that's going to be here to support you. This is the Exponential Destiny team. Notice I'm the old guy here. This is a group of young people that were in your shoes, predominantly from low-income communities, from public school systems and under-resourced communities who have upskilled themselves to be professionals in the space like we hope you will be. And they're going to help you be your coaches to help you get there. We also have some core mentees of individuals that have been helping us that we've been training that are now also at a place to help us. And then I give a shout out to the Exponential Africa chapter, which is our first chapter that we're launching in Africa out of Nigeria, where our good friend Riwa and her entire team, we met with them in Rwanda and we gave them a crash course training. And we hope that they will be upskilled and reskilled in this profession quickly so that we can start helping schools across Africa, starting in Nigeria. So that's a team that also, especially because there's a lot of people from the countries of Africa that have actually registered for this competition because of the trip we did to Rwanda. Last but not least is just giving you a little details of who's actually participating in this competition, just so you know who it is. This was yesterday. I pulled the numbers. It was about 355. I think we're up to 380 right now. We expect we'll probably get close to 1,000 people when we're done. How many teams that turns into, we don't know, but we think there'll be about 1,000 people. But you can see here that most people are very interested in this, but they don't, and they're focused on being part of this. They're not just joining this out of curiosity, they're actually ready to do this. So we think most of these respondents, most of you will actually participate. From an age group perspective, the blue shows 14 to 18-year-olds. The red shows 19-year-old to 30, which is the majority. And then you see the older age groups. So it's a pretty good split between the two predominant age groups. In terms of the SDGs, we're glad to say that every SDG has got someone that's interested in it right now that they've identified, that all 17. SDG quality education number 4 and zero hunger are the two highest right now, followed by good health and well-being. And that could change as more people register. This is another interesting statistic. The majority of you have no experience at all. You've never even been in a headset. So that's what we anticipated, by the way, that most of you will have not had much exposure to virtuality or the metaverse. And so you should feel comfortable. You're in the same boat as most of the people here. Most of you have said that you've, 33% of you said you've already got your team members. 30% of you said that you've not identified any team members. That's why we put up that website that Marco reviewed. We've got about 60% of you that are male and about 42% of you that are female. So pretty even split. We're very, very happy about that. Our real goal is to have, gender equality here in terms of making sure everybody's represented. And then we asked you the question, why are you doing this? What makes you compete in this competition? Why are you being part of this community? The interesting thing, and this is not a surprise to us, by the way, prize money was not even in the top 5. The majority of you are doing this because, you want to improve your knowledge and skill sets in new technologies in the metaverse. It sounds fun. You're passionate about the sustainable development goals. You think it's a great cause. So these are the reasons you told us that you're interested. This is the second reason people said, if the second priority of why they're doing this. So again, it's not really about the prize money, but the prize money is nice if you win, right? Again, we showed you the countries that were participating at the beginning of this call. We got 52 countries represented as of right now. We're really proud of that. The reasons, we think there's a lot of benefit for you guys to really take ownership here and control your destiny and be part of this, because we think you'll really benefit from this exercise. With that said, we just want to emphasize to you, please share this with your friends and colleagues and classmates and peers, because they can register still. The registration will be open for months. So we're just starting the registration. So people can get into this. Videos like this or information sessions like this will be turned into a video. So people who didn't attend this session will be able to watch the video and get up to speed. But please be vocal, get out there and communicate, and let's be part of a community that works on this together. Amazingly enough, it is the top of the hour, and this was a 1-hour session. I do want to reserve a little bit of time for Q&A, so I'm going to pause here, get out of screen show mode, and then if anybody has a question and they want to raise their hand, there's quite a few of you on here, but you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat, and just no question's a bad question. If you've got anything you'd like to ask us, now would be the time to do it. We can try to respond to you. Does anybody have something they'd like to ask? Either we're really effective at communicating and we shared a very robust, comprehensive, or somebody's shy, or a little bit of both. If there's no questions. Does anyone have any comments? Does anyone want to share anything about where they are in the world and what they're doing and why they're interested in this? More than happy to hear from you as well.
Thank you, Marcus and Marco. It was very informative.
Good. Was that helpful? Do you feel like that was level setting you as a first call to understand what this is all about?
Yes, it was very helpful. And two people from my organization was on the call as well. So this was really great because they did have a lot of questions, but I think you explained it, or Marco, you explained it very well. Thanks.
That's awesome. Where are you calling from, Vanetta, or where are you dialing in from?
From Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, great. Great. Well, this is exciting. It's really good to hear. Thank you for that feedback, because we're immersed in this stuff so much, we don't know if we're making sense half the time when we talk about this stuff. So that's great. And there's a lot of information on the website, but it's all text. So we don't expect most people to be able to read all of it. So it's good to have these sessions. So we're going to schedule sessions like this probably at least every month. We probably will do it every 2 weeks. We might even start doing it weekly, because we might have one-offs. If you want to learn about how to use your iPhone to capture LiDAR and capture an image and bring it into virtual reality, Pablo might schedule a separate session just on that topic if you want to attend that. So we plan on doing some interesting things over the next few months. And with that, I don't know if anyone from the Exponential Destiny team or anyone who's in the any of the registrants or people that are on the call want to make a final comment. All righty. Anybody?
There's Elise.
Yes, to raising hands in class, in Zoom classes. Yeah, thank you very much for this informative session. Really learned a lot. And also I had some few questions. The questions are, first of all, when is the deadline for the registrations as teams? And the other question is, are these people for the trainings? I think we're going to get the trainings on the VR and the AR, because I think less of us really know how to use them. And so are they going to be a selected particular number of people that are going to take the trainings, or is it that it's generally everyone who just registered for the competition is going to get the courses?
Yeah, anyone who registered, we're going to try as a collective group to train you. And we've had experience doing this because we've worked with schools where we've done large groups of training. Sometimes it's easier to do in person, but during COVID, we did this with schools and it was completely remote. It's not rocket science. I mean, really, you're putting, it's the same level of training you would need to learn to take an iPhone and get into an app store and start pulling up an app and start manipulating things in it, like PowerPoint. That is essentially what we're doing, but you're going to be doing it wearing a headset instead of looking at a phone or looking at a desktop. So it's nothing to be worried about because it's not that complex. However, it's still new. All of us, when we first got our iPhone, it wasn't intuitive at first. So it took a while to get used to, but it really is no more complicated than that. And some people on your team will probably be brilliant at it and they're going to train you, and you're not going to rely on us because they're going to be better than us before you know it. But yeah, the answer to your question is we really methodically over the next couple months, we plan on helping you figure out, once you get your hardware, how do you get the apps loaded? once you get into the apps, how do you start using them? I will tell you this, the apps actually have quite a bit of tutorial within them themselves. And because you're in virtual reality, it's a lot easier to learn because the app literally is showing you in ways. I mean, this is the power of VR. It educates you on how to use VR in ways that you couldn't do by watching a video or even us telling you, because you're in a virtual environment. You have someone coaching you in that environment. It's almost like you have your personal coach. So yeah, you know, we will be with you to help you with that. And that was a really good question.
Marcus, I have one last question. This is Vanetta again. What do you think the time requirement to become like proficient in the metaverse? Because I have some college students who will be participating, and they're just concerned about the time commitment.
So that's a great, actually, I'm really glad you asked that question. We should have brought this up. Vanetta, the reason why we made this over a year is so people don't have to put in more than a couple hours a week if they don't want to. That's plenty of time. You know, you could build an environment. I mean, it's kind of like PowerPoint presentation. You could build a PowerPoint presentation. You can always critique it and say, you know what, I can probably make this better. I'm going to change these fonts. I'm going to put some animation in here. I'm going to add a couple more slides. So you can always ameliorate your design over time if you want to. So it's kind of a never ending exercise. However, to get to a minimum viable product, or what we call minimum viable experience, you could probably do that in a few weeks around one of the SDGs that becomes very effective. So the nice thing here is you really have a full year. Some people will use a lot of time and take the full year, and we anticipate they'll create just a crazy, amazing environment. Some, it's working smarter, not harder. You know, they might take less time, but their creative IQ is very high, and therefore they get in there and they create stuff brilliant the first time out. You know, this is definitely an area where creative skill sets are a premium asset on the team, unlike other tech jobs, especially in here, because you're building stories and you're communicating, et cetera. You know, Samantha, who is on the call, she's one of our leaders in the organization. She's an art major, and you know, this is a field for her she can really excel in. Yeah, I think if you had a team and all they wanted to do was put in 3 or 4 hours a week, but they really were good hours, you know, they were really building stuff over the course of this competition, they'll easily get something amazing out there. That's a lot. That's actually a lot of time in terms of cumulative hours over 8 months or 9 months.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good question. Actually, I got to make a note of that to bring that up tomorrow, because I'm sure a lot of people have that on their mind. By the way, when we work with schools, we do a 6-month project with them. It doesn't take us 6 months, but we do that because we know they only have a few hours a week to work on it, the teachers and the students.
When is the deadline for the registrations as teams?
Oh, the deadline for the registration of teams. We actually don't really have a deadline, because it will probably be, I think on the website right now, we say by the end of the calendar year, December 31st, you can't sign up a team anymore. But the reality is, we're just going to look at who created the best experiences by February of next year. We'll probably shut off the deadline by December 31st, though, as far as telling people you can't register anymore.
Yes, that's correct. The deadline is December 31st on the website.
Yeah. I think our intent there was, you know, you might train yourself and become very good at this and determine in November that you're finally getting your team together with your schedule and everything that was going on in your life. And that's when you're going to start to produce something. Now, you could be very disadvantaged because everyone else has been working on it for 4 or 5 or 6 months. So you got to take that in consideration, but we don't want that to be a barrier to entry. We're also going to try very hard to monitor to make sure that people aren't submitting solutions that have already been created. Like, we don't want to see someone that's already created an SDG metaverse space and then enter that into the competition. This is a competition for people that are creating things from scratch. So we're trying to prevent people from bringing content that they've already, you know, I'm sure someone out there has created something to teach about life below water, you know, life underwater. We're incentivizing people that this is a creative experience, that process that we want to incentivize. Well, listen, on behalf of Marco, Samantha, Pablo, Zach, Kevin, Juan, Iris, and the team, thank you very much for participating in this with us. This is, as you can tell, this can be a lot of fun if we all have the right attitude towards it. We can build an amazing community. We really would like to see you develop these skill sets and hopefully have a relationship with you that lasts past the competition. to where we help you transform schools in your communities. I mean, that's our mission as a nonprofit. So thank you. And no need to get on the call tomorrow unless you want to hear this all regurgitated again. So we do have another call tomorrow, but we're doing that for people that can't attend this time zone. But from all of us to you, thank you very much. And have a good evening. Bye-bye.